Howdy, howdy, and welcome to My Bloody Judy with your final forgets, myself, Zachary Patton Garcia.
And Ian Carlos Crawford. And filling in for Zachary Patton Garcia, today we have...
I'm Ashley Hullett.
And I'm Adam Straughan.
And we're here to talk Yellowjackets, Season 3, Episode 4, 12... I put 12 Angry Men, but it doesn't... It's actually... I think
it's 12 Angry Girls and one Drunk Travis.
One Drunk Travis, right. I thought that was going to play into it, Travis being drunk, but...
Yeah,
he just seems really hungover. Like I was like trying to remember, was he really drunk in the last episode?
I think he did get like kind of high or whatever.
Yeah, because Lottie was like forcing him to
do like the drugs.
It wasn't drunk.
Yeah, right. I thought it was just like drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did too.
Like I thought after everything that happens with like Coach like Scott, he was going to like start hitting the drink or something through guilt, but then that didn't happen. So I'm like, yeah, misdirection for no reason.
Yeah, it could have just been and Travis. I don't know.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Overall, what did we think of this episode, Adam?
Oof. Yeah. I keep like in my mind, I keep going, it's like, as the other resident gay guy on this podcast, I should be like, should I have just done Zach's voice all the way through and people listening wouldn't have known? Like,
your voice is almost there. It's pretty deep. So
with your final forget. Can you imagine like people at home are like, Zach sounds a little bit rough today. But people at home, who am I? But anyway, yes, this episode. The show in general, I'll say, suffers from the thing which, and I know you've mentioned this, Ian, it reminds me so much of Lost, right? In that you and I love Lost. Ashley, did you watch Lost? Okay. In that when they started doing the like stuff off the island, you know, the famous we have to go back. Like I feel like I'm waiting for that in the modern day stuff. So like the stuff that happens on the island when they're younger, for me, is far more interesting than what's happening with their older selves. And I feel like the imbalance is kind of really tipping the other way, where like when they're on the island, when they're young, I'm like, oh, I'm really invested in this. And then when they're, you know, when they're older, it kind of feels like, and we had a little talk about before we hit record, it feels like they're just, some of the characters, they're giving them stuff to do. So like, you know, like with Ty and like, I love the Ty and Van thing. Like I love their relationship. When they came back together, I was like, okay, it's really sweet. And then certain things have happened, which are a little bit toxic in there. But I'm just like, now they're following a card. Like, okay, we're giving them things to do here. Like, it doesn't really engage me. It's just, I'm like, okay, like they're doing this thing because. But yeah, this episode overall, it's weird. Like Shauna, I've always had like a really turbulent relationship with. Sometimes I've really liked her, other times I've thought she's the absolute devil. And then I lean definitely towards that way in this episode. I'm like, just fucking shut up, like so many times. And Misty is like my girl. Like I love Misty. I mean, I love Christina Ricci. I'll watch her in anything. But even like the younger actress who plays her as well is phenomenal.
She's fantastic. Yeah.
So good. And I love her in this episode. Like, you know, for having that, you know, that hesitancy of like what I have to stand up and defend, like, you know, Coach Scott, to then fucking doing it so well and making so many good points and sense. Like, I really love this. That for me, that's the juicy drama stuff of this episode. It's the whole trial, which normally I can be a bit touch and go on a trial, even though I love Ally McBeal. But
same.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's like a, you know, the legality of it, I'm like, okay, let's just get on with it. That's why I don't watch like, you know, Law and Order and stuff like that. But this really worked for me. I really love this because it's like a group of girls who are not lawyers, who don't work in a court, but have like brought this thing together and are like, we're getting to see how each of them feel, how they think. They're putting across a really interesting points. So it's done really well, and I really like it for that. But yeah, so that was really engaging. I really can't stand Shauna right now, both in the future and present day and in the past. But you know, it's moving, I guess, the show along nicely.
Ashley, what do you think of this episode? Ashley, by the way, your hair looks fucking fantastic.
Thank you. She fresh. Every episode is a doozy of this show, but I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated this episode, but I did enjoy it. But like at the end of it, I'm like, you know what? I'm so mad at these girls. Like, maybe it was me. Maybe I burned down the cabin.
Right. Actually, I felt the same way. It's like, well, now I'm not mad at whoever burned the cabin down because they were right to do it. Like, yeah, I saw people saying that they really hated this episode. It made me mad, but I thought it was like good because I'm the same way with you, Adam. Like a legal procedural show, I'm like I think it's so boring, but like I do think it was like interesting seeing what they tried to abide by, like court wise, and like I forget what the one word that Thaisa says to her, and she's like, I don't know what that is. And it's like, yeah, they're
A redirect.
teenagers.
Right.
Like, of
Yeah.
course they wouldn't know what all these terms are. And I did, again, Misty, ooh, that actress is so good. And like, it's funny that Misty, her like evolution is so wild because right at the top, at the start in season 1, it was like she was the devil. Like she was the
cuckoo.
one.
Yep.
Yeah. And then like slowly we learned like, so all of them have their trauma, right? And all of them, it like took different forms in their adult life. Nat maybe had the most like it's wild to be like, oh, she had like a addiction and recovery problem. Like Nat, that's the most normal, I feel like, of all their trauma reactions, right? Like she's not harming, she's not murdering people. All the rest of them are. Like all the rest of them are like, everyone's like can come or go, I don't give a shit. And like Misty is now like one of the only present day characters I like. Because I feel like we also got all of her crazy out at the top. So it's like we understand her and we can feel compassion. Shauna, and I said this to Ashley earlier in a text, Melanie Lynskey is so likable that I'm often able to forget all the awful shit Shauna has done.
Right.
It's no longer sustaining Shauna as a character for me anymore. Like when we got like Misty imagining stabbing her, I was like, I immediately was like, oh, that's like Faith with Willow. I know she's not, but like fucking do it, Misty. Like,
Yeah.
When we were watching this earlier, I watched it again this morning before this, and my partner was with me. And that line when Jackie's like, not only for what you did, you know, out there, but for what you did when you got back. And he was like, what did she do when she got back? And I was like, Shauna Shipman? Well, we've seen a lot of stuff she's done since she's been back. Like,
oh, and he has been watching it with you.
Yeah, the whole time. I'm like, don't forget who you're talking
had an
about.
affair and murdered that man.
Yeah.
Like,
And I'm with you, Ian. Like the actress, like, you know, I haven't seen her in a lot, but obviously she was in The Last of Us. I don't know if you guys watched that, but she was in like
I didn't, but yeah, I heard she was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal in that. Really, really
So
good.
good.
And like she plays the part so freaking well. And like, you know, when the actors are both in sync, like the younger version and the older version, like, you know, Misty, like the young actress, and Christina Ricci, are like literally it's like the same person. It's so good. And like the Shauna character for me, it does like they do fit together.
Yes.
But Christ, like all the way through this episode, I was like, I mean, people that are watching this, I'm like, actually pick up that knife behind you, that Faith knife, and do it your fucking self.
Yeah.
Like,
Like-
take that woman out.
I
But
just
and like everything, like, you know, even when like, you know, her husband calls her out, like Jeff earlier on, he was like, oh, so you've got this cat, which looks like the cat that was missing 2 years ago. And I'm like, even that, like when she's trying to do something good is still a toxic way of doing it. I'm like, is there any like redemption for this woman? But I will.
I think she is like a legit sociopath, not in the way people throw it around on the internet, but like a legitimate one.
And doesn't realize it. But I mean, the one thing I will say is I love Ella Purnell. Like, I love her as an actress. She was in Fallout, Ian. I know you watched that as well.
Yeah,
phenomenal. So every time we get like, you know, Jackie coming back through her, I'm like, okay, like I like this because I like seeing Jackie again. But yeah, like even that itself, like when she's talking to like the younger version of Jackie in the freezer, I'm like, this girl has got major issues right now. Like she's 2 steps away from picking up a knife and stabbing everyone. Like she is ready to snap.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to talk about the present day stories first, since those are like, you know, the weakest or the least. They give us the least. So Thaisa and Van, I had no clue what they were doing. Did y'all like? I get it now, but I didn't understand from the beginning. Like, what did that connect to?
Like the cards?
Yeah,
They're trying because so Van's cancer is getting better.
and
So they were trying to sacrifice another person.
But I know later on in the episode we see Lottie with a card. Had we seen that before with the playing cards?
So that was kind of new to me.
Okay.
But like the whole thing, obviously, as soon as we saw Lottie with the cards and she was like, oh, you know, you've got to swear on the spirit of like the forest and everything with the cards. I was like, okay, so they're using the cards to basically try and commune with that spirit again, to try and like, you know, it guide them because they think now that Van's getting better. It's like the spirit showing itself. So like, you know, Ty's really pushing this narrative. Let's follow the spirit and decide what it's going to do. But even that, I'm like, okay, like I feel like I'm putting together the pieces myself. Like the show isn't giving me a lot to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think that they were leaning on the cards, right? Because that's like how they chose their leader,
Yes.
right? And so the
In
cards
last season, was that how they did it? Okay, I couldn't
yeah,
remember that.
Natalie drew like the queen or whatever.
Okay.
And then I think that was technically supposed to be mean that she was going to die, right? And then Javi ended up dying, and then it was like another whole thing. And so, and that was the necklace piece too. They would put the necklace on whoever was going to die, and that's why Shauna freaked out about
Right.
her daughter having it on.
And then like now they just let this random man chase the card on the street, and they're like, let's follow him. I'm like, what?
And they put it down, and like the little girl picks it up, and I was like, ah!
They didn't seem that upset either when it was the
No.
kid. I was
No.
like, they're not reacting that. Like, they're just like, oh, okay, we're going to kill that child. All right. Like,
And also, I'm like, and now you're gonna like follow him. So was the intention for y'all to kill him? Or did you think that the wilderness was like gonna take care of it? Regardless, you've been too close to too many murders too recently to be following this man around like this close.
Ty
And-
is like famous. Like, she
Yeah.
is a senator or was a senator. Like, that seems like she would be.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
more eyes on her.
she like grabs his handle, and I'm like, you don't have on gloves. Are you gonna go in there and kill him? Your prints are everywhere. Like,
I know. What was her plan? Like, what were you going to do? Go in and talk to this man and be like, hey, you got my card. Like, he's going to be like, who the fuck? Like, what are you doing in my house? Like, get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And then just the switch as well. When Van's like, hold on a second, you're going on a bit crazy right now. Let's no. And then she's like, okay, let's go to Central Park and get like, this together. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
She's
Like,
gonna
is
go
she
back.
okay? Yeah.
she's gonna go back.
Oh, 100%.
I think she killed Lottie. I think that's what happened. I think when she split up from her, I think she killed Lottie because she specifically was like hearing all the noises when she calls Lottie and like hears New York noises, and that's where they are.
Right.
And she says like, where are you? Because she's hearing all the noise. So, and they're all smart, right? Like, they're all like crazy murderers, but they're all also very smart. So I feel
Yeah.
like she was like, oh, Lottie's in this city. Oh, let me go. I'm going to split up with Van, because there was no reason for her to be like, oh, meet me here, Van. And I do think she's going to propose to Van, and when they get in that carriage in whatever episode, next episode or something. But I also think she split up from her so she could, one, go get a ring and then have an alibi, and two, go murder Lottie. Like, that's what I think. Because from Thaisa's point of view, it's almost like this has to happen for Van to survive.
Yeah.
So like, sure, what, and
I
like,
don't know. I think for me, I thought that she, was splitting them up, and then I think she circled back to that man.
that man.
I thought whoever Lottie was practicing her apology for, I was like, guess they didn't accept it.
Yeah.
Because that's the same outfit.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when she's on the phone, she waves at somebody.
Yeah.
Meaning somebody. But I paused it. I zoomed. There's nobody recognizable in that shot.
So I wasn't sure if even though this like barely happens anymore, I wasn't sure if she was waving down a cab or at somebody.
I thought about the cab, but just this shot of the street we see didn't look like it
Yeah.
it was like more of an alleyway over to a street.
Yeah.
And there was just a bunch of people walking, and I was like,
Yeah, it makes sense if it is Ty that she's waving at, though. Like someone recognizable like that. And although she did like hang up on her earlier on, yeah, like all it takes is them like literally meeting in an alleyway, having a conversation, Ty potentially pushing her down the stairs and leaving her. And depending on where it was, like obviously, I don't know if it was where all the noisy stuff was happening, but like no one's going to hear that. It depends on where the alleyway is, but yeah, like I don't know. That for me, like ending the episode like that, I was a bit like, oh. Because like Nat's episode destroyed me in season 2. I'm not gonna lie. Like I miss Juliette Lewis so much in this show.
Yeah, I really miss her. Yeah.
Like she was the heart in so
My
many
fave.
ways. And I think even like her younger version is the heart in so many
Yeah.
ways in like, that.
She's
but-
the only one who's not like murder happy in the
Lit-
past. I don't understand why like the show keeps trying to make us believe that any of the other ones are good, but they're just not. Like, and last week when Dana filled in for Zach, she had said that she felt the reason Misty considered Nat her best friend was while Nat, shows up with a shotgun at, I think it's at the end of episode 1. She also like understood Misty a little bit more, and she thinks Misty was more willing to see, or Nat was more willing to see Misty's human sides than the rest of them. And now, especially after this episode, I'm like, yeah, Dana was right, because like they are all awful and don't care about anyone but themselves. Misty is also a murderer, but Misty does care about people. Like, that is like the difference with Misty, Shauna, and Ty, where Ty cares about Van, but she would fucking, I feel like, dispose of Shauna and Misty in a second if it helped Van or her.
Yeah.
Misty would never do that with them. Like, for Misty, I think Ty, Shauna, Van, Nat, Lottie would all be off limits. Like, that's like, to her, that is her family, even though they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, oof. Yeah, so Ty and Van, it is a little like, we need to give them something to do.
Yeah.
And the thing about Van also, Lauren Ambrose, I love. Lauren Ambrose, loved her since 6 Feet Under, Can't Hardly Wait. She's always been like, I felt like someone that like I would be friends with. She always plays like a character like that. But we also are seeing that Van was kind of part of the mob, right? Like she wasn't like being fair or nice. She was kind of like, yeah, fucking coach did it. Let's kill him, blah, blah, blah. Which I appreciate because it's not. So here's my little like thing that's been bothering me lately that I've been thinking a lot since Agatha, because I fucking hated that finale. And I loved the show so much. And I see internet discourse so much. And somewhere in my brain, someone smarter can put this together. But like, I feel like Tony Stark was the beginning of the end of like well-written characters, because people want to like humanize these like villains. And it's like, no, it's okay if they're just bad. Like, and I see the like Yellowjackets discourse where they try to explain away stuff Shauna did or explain away stuff Thaisa did. And it's like, no, they're just bad people. Like, yes, it's because of their trauma, but they are still bad people. And it's like, because media literacy is dead, people want to like explain it away or be like, no, but poor thing, Bo. And it's like, no, she's bad. Like, and that's okay. And I feel like Tony Stark was like the first, like, oh, he's a total asshole, but he is a hero. And then that started to be the norm. And now we've like breached into like, oh, but they're a murderer, but they're my sweet little cinnamon roll. And it's like, no, they're fucking not. They're a murderer. Like, why are we doing this? And people like can't tell the difference sometimes because like Shauna absolutely is like she's not a good person. It's like people can't tell the difference between a good character and a good person.
Yeah.
There is a big difference. So Shauna is a good character, and she's like, it's Melanie Linsky is such a good choice for an adult version of this character, aside from the fact that the two actresses look alike. Because she is likable and she looks like, you know, they even like dress her down a little bit. So she looks like, you know, a mom of a kid one of us might have gone to school with or something. Right. And like, that's not someone you assume is a cannibal murderer. And I think people like, they get confused with that because she's a good character, that then they want to humanize her and make it seem like, well, and it's like, no, she's just bad, and that's okay. And I think she cares about Jeff and Callie as much as she can care about someone.
Yeah.
But it's still not like a regular like mom partner caring about, right?
Right. And you can talk about their trauma in the wilderness all you want, but she wasn't a good person going into it. So that's kind of not a valid argument.
She's
like it definitely made it worse.
Right.
No, she's written in a way that constantly reminds us that she's not a good person. So like if you do try to humanize her in any way, and there might be glimpses, like, yes, obviously the trauma with her baby and everything like that was horrendous, but like that doesn't justify, oh well, you know, everything's fine that she's doing now because she went through that trauma. Like, you know, she is written in that way to remind us, like, fucking hell, like she has got some bad stuff about her, baby, like really does. But I think going back to like what we were saying about like, you know, Van as well being part of the gang of like, you know, let's string up Coach Scott, like let's get him. I think it like in a way kind of leans into a little bit the last episode as well, like, so it was like Shauna, Van, and I'm forgetting the other character's name when they had the shared dream together.
Akila,
yes. And that was really interesting. Like, I mean, I loved that shit. I know it was like part of like the gas and everything like that, but I loved it. I love when it starts to push the more supernatural element. But again, like they were kind of joined in that consensus straight away, and that's when you kind of see later on them three are also thinking the same way about the coach as well. And the show does a lot of this where it's like, you know, are the supernatural things happening? Is it kind of joint trauma that's making them all feel the same and think the same? And I think this episode plays a lot with that when Shauna is the one that convinces a lot of people to change their mind at the end. And I think it's really kind of exploring that theme of, power, when people have power over the people, how they influence how people think, and like, do we all think this way? Are we governed by one person telling us how to think? So there's a lot of that, and that's why I love the court stuff like in this episode a lot, because it's exploring that theme a lot more. But yeah, but Shauna in general, nah, she ain't good.
No. Speaking of, we'll jump to Shauna. I love but also hate that like she had proof that no one fucked with her brakes.
Yes.
And still this like played so well into like past Shauna, where it's like there is proof that this did not happen, and she's just refusing to go back on it. She's just like, nope, Misty did it. I know she did it. And like the mechanic is like, no, that happens. Like the brakes weren't. And she's like, it was Misty. Great, got it.
Yeah. I love Jeff. You have to be a really well written cishet dude for me to be like, especially a white cishet dude for me to be like, I love that character. But the way he's like, well, I didn't stop it, and now the van won't stop. Now that's karma. I was just like, I love this guy so much.
When they're when he's like, we're gonna do volunteer work, and I was like, he's really thinking it's because of him. Like, he's really like blaming himself when it's like, your wife murdered a man. Like,
I don't think he's really blaming himself. I think he's thinking like, we have done so much and now I need to do something good to feel better about myself. And also maybe if I can do a bunch of good, then it'll fix it for us.
When they got into the parking lot and Shaw and Jeff's like, seems like something's going on with you, but like not really, like kind of just like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. I was like, this is me and Zach, and that's Alistair.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I think it's what you said, Ash. Like he's kind of saying in a way like, look, there's a lot of darkness around us all right now. So let's kind of just, if I can do anything to help clear this air, like, and get the karma back on good vibes, let's do it. But like, yeah, it was cute him like doing the bingo balls and like talking to like the elderly people. Like, were those jokes absolutely shit that he was telling? 100%. But it didn't matter because
he said he knew his audience. And
exactly.
And
exactly.
And Randy's like, stay in your fucking lane.
Yeah. That reminded me of Jason Sullivan, who co-hosts sometimes the Angel stuff. That's how he would be when we worked together. Like, old people would come in and he'd make the dumbest jokes and then look at me and like wink because he knew that it annoyed me. But old people would eat it up. I remember one time I was supervisor, he was a manager at Barnes and Noble. This old man and like his like wife was like past closed. They still had not left. He got mad at me when I was like, hey, we've been closed for 5 minutes. We need you to come up front and check out or, come back tomorrow. The guy was so mad. And Jason goes to him, I know they charge you for everything everywhere. And then they want you to get out. Soon they're going to be charging you for air when you walk in the door, aren't they? And looked at me and winked. And I was like, and the old man laughed and was like, oh, you're right, son. And then got along with him perfectly, left like politely. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
He threw you under that bus. Jesus.
And like he did it on purpose to like annoy me, but he was so good at like getting old people to like love him. Oh, like a good example. We drove across country to move him and his now wife to LA. We had weed in the van, and I didn't know when you cross the border into California, I don't know if this is still the case, there's like a border patrol that checks your car. Like, it's like a toll, and you stop, and they check your car, and we had weed just, like, sitting in the back, in a bag that was clearly a bunch of weed, and Jason was like, me and my friend Kevin were like, oh my God, and Jason was like, I got this. Gets out of the car, immediately was like, oh yeah, my girlfriend didn't want to come, women, they always pack a lot, and the old man was eating it up, didn't even look. He opened the door, is talking to Jason, closes the door, Jason gets back in, he's like, see, I knew what I was doing, and I was like,
That's like us at the Bonnaroo checkpoint. It's like, you just got to schmooze as much as possible. Maybe they won't open the cooler. Maybe they won't even look.
Some people have that. In the UK, we call it the gift of the gab. And that's what he's got, the gift of the gab. Some people that have that can talk the way out of anything.
Yeah.
Jesus, I envy it.
Yeah. So Misty, and I feel bad for Misty because I 100% believe she did not do anything
Yeah.
this time around. I really think she didn't do anything. And I'm like, Shauna, just up, because also Misty, like, I feel like at the very least, Shauna should understand Misty's useful.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God. The
right?
most useful of all of them.
Yep.
Yes. And like, I think Shauna's kind of taking it for granted. So I think she does know that, but she's just like, well, Misty will still help me. Like, whatever. But
I'm like, can you at least just placate her? Just say you're sorry. You don't have to mean it.
Yeah.
right.
And she's like, I'm sorry for not knowing why I should say I'm sorry. I'm like, Shauna.
She is 100% taking her for granted and doesn't give a shit about it. Like, that's what drives me nuts. Like, you know, like in the, you know, a couple episodes ago as well, when Misty was like, oh, I've never even had a sleepover. And like, you know, she sees these people as friends because she's never really had a connection with people like that before. And then even Shauna gets that and she's like, well, because of that, Misty will look after my kid. I don't have to tell her. Like, just, I'll tell her to come here and then like, then drop this on her and be like, okay, bye and peace out. You know, and then that, and then all of this, and like Misty's always been there to help her. Like she calls, Misty answers. Do you know what I mean? Like she's the friend that you call at 3 a.m. when shit gets real. Misty's going to be there, and Shauna knows that, and she's like, "Oh well, how can I exploit this?" And that just feeds back into her as a character, just being like a shithead. But going back to what you were saying earlier, Ian, like that's absolutely why her character is also really great to watch, because it's like, oh, this person that I really don't like, how are they going to like interact with this character? How are they going to handle this situation? And it's a defined character like that I really love. Yes, like they're a shitty person, but so well acted and so well defined that I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the fact that, and a freezer door shutting, I like, y'all have worked places, but right? Like that happens. Like,
It's also not that cold. It would take a long time for you to die in there.
right. You
Like
would be
I used to go
cold,
hang out
but-
in there just to cool down. Like, and I would be in there for like 45 minutes and would be totally fine.
Yeah. That when I worked at Barnes and Noble, I mean, I didn't even work in the cafe, but that was like, I remember like a few weeks where the air conditioner didn't work. And so like we would take, like, I'd be like, well, I'm gonna take a 15. I'm gonna go sit in the freezer and just like go in the cafe and sit in the freezer. Cause I'm cold. So she gets locked in the freezer. She sees Jackie. I love a Jackie appearance.
Same.
Again, like you said, Adam, that actor, she's so good.
The music too is good. This is a good reveal.
Yes. And yeah, she just kind of I like that the other guy, because Jeff is busy doing his job for him, he just like happens to go into the kitchen and get
They ask him to. They're like,
Yeah,
will you go
right.
get us snacks? He's like, God damn it.
I love Jackie's just like eat shit like attitude, and like she'll just talk to anyone exactly how she wants to, especially Shauna, because she knew like she had Shauna wrapped around her little finger in season 1, so she was just like, oh, you're just being a dick. Like I love it so much. That actress plays it so well, so it's always so engaging when she brings that back. But yeah, even when like that guy lets her out of the freezer and like again doesn't say thank you to him, runs past him straight to the desk, is like, where's Misty? Like, oh my god, take 5 minutes, Shauna, like for fuck's sake.
Like, it didn't even occur to me. I was like, oh yeah, because freezers do shut, like if the door's only
Well,
like,
and so that thing she was hitting, that's the exit. You push that and it unlocks it, but it was stuck.
oh, okay. Okay. I think
Yeah, so if it does close, there's that, and you push it and it unlocks it from
okay. That makes more
the
sense.
inside. And that's why she was like beating the fuck
Passionate.
out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, and then like do we think Shauna's gonna at least, I mean, I don't think she'll apologize, but at least be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't Misty. Like I do think something, right? When she goes to talk to the front desk and they're like, she left hours ago.
Yeah, and I think that's where, okay, so I think that everything that Jackie was saying to her was her guilt. Like,
Yes.
she's panicking now that she's stuck in here, and everything that Jeff has said, Jackie is now like, maybe you are supposed to just die here all alone. And then when she gets out and finds out that it's not, like Misty wasn't there, and like now the freezer has just shut on its own, and then she saw Jackie, she's like, okay, karma.
Yeah.
Let me go find this cat.
Yes.
Because now I believe that we do need to make up for some shit.
And it's her version of karma again, right? Like it's not even like, because Jeff is doing like the pure version of karma
Right.
alongside her. Like we don't have to go to this place, like, you know, and she hates that he chose somewhere that Misty works, but yet he's not bothered about that. Like he wants to go and just help where he can and volunteer and do all the good stuff. And then as soon as she gets back, she's like, oh yeah, like I drove all the way to Manhattan to pick up this cat because it looked like one that went missing 2 years ago. And it's like, it's her version of karma, you know, which is that karma? Like, would that traumatize the people if she brought a cat back 2 years later? Oh, here it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that she chose the cat. This is just my read of it, but like when he's listing off all the stuff, right? And she's like, that cat was like 2 years ago. And he was like, well, it'll be a hell of a lot of karma points. So she's like, what's the biggest thing on the table right now? The cat. And then her first thought is, how can I manipulate my way into getting these karma points? Oh, I know. I'll go find another cat exactly like it. And so that's kind of
which
the
is
way
so
her brain works. Manipulation is like that's the first line of defense. How can I manipulate this situation to go the way I want it?
You're right, because I think to her, manipulating is how you, like, that's just how
Get
you
stuff
do
done.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, there isn't like another way.
Right.
And we've seen her do it with Misty. We've seen her do it with other characters, Jeff several times as well. Like, Christ, she's done it with like the police officers, like everything. So yeah, that's her go-to, right?
Yeah, like I don't even think manipulate is the word she thinks. Like that's what she's doing, but like to her, it's like, oh, that's just how you fix things. Yeah,
that's how we get stuff done. Yeah.
Whereas like that's the difference. Is I think Misty would be more like, oh, I'm gonna manipulate this situation. Like I think Misty would be like, do I need to manipulate this situation, or do I need to do like? I think she would have the wherewithal to know the difference. She wouldn't care either way, but I think she would know the difference.
Yeah, I will say one really mean thing she did do was steal that. She stole Svetlana's puzzle pieces. I was like, what?
Yes.
She said she's been working on it for weeks, Misty.
I do. I don't understand why she was so annoyed at that lady. Like, why did she assume that letter was from Walter? Like, I didn't really understand.
Isn't that what? I think that's Walter's family member.
Oh, is she?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And so that's why she went in there to be like, I haven't heard from him since I threw him out of my house, which is a loose cannon. And she does need to wrap that shit up because he is just as crazy as she is. And like, that is a risk for sure. You need to keep you need to keep him on your good side for sure. And I think that maybe the puzzle pieces and everything, she's like taking out her Walter issues on this lady. Because that's
and her anger over Shauna, probably.
Yeah.
And that's what she does. Like, you remember when she got out the car and screamed at the kid and she was like, what are you looking at?
It's
like,
true. Yeah.
And I, to be honest, I do love it. It's just, it's pettiness that I love in a character like that. So like every time she does, I'm like, yes. So when she stole them puzzle pieces, I was like, okay, that is a shitty thing to do, but it's fucking hilarious for that character.
It's funny because for me, I think that like tracks for Misty because those are such childish things. And she's of all of them, like all of them have like clear issues, right? And like trauma and whatever. I think Misty's trauma, a lot of it is like she can murder, but she is like still kind of a child. Like
she's a little bit suspended in her
teen
years for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I think the rest of them did, like, you know, I mean, Thaisa's got whatever issues, but she still like ran a campaign and got elected senator. Like I don't think Misty could do that. Right. So yeah, with Misty, she goes and talks to Shauna. She imagines stabbing her, which
I mean, that might be my favorite, like, still of the entire episode is when she looks over at that knife. Christina Ricci's face is so perfect. It's so good.
I love a moment like that in shows when like a character imagines what they want to do and then it cuts back and they're just like, oh, like Ally McBeal did it all the time when she imagined like doing something to somebody like that and then just cutting back and being like, oh, just so annoyed. But as you said, Ash, like Christina Ricci for me is a goddess. She just plays it so well. And even just like that still of like when she does it and Shauna's like, and then it cuts it's like, oh, if only.
And how she played the tapioca part too, and she's like, "You're going on tapioca duty," and she's like, "I don't." Based on how that sounds, no, I'm not. She's like, "Oh, yes, you are," and then she's like, "This is better than an apology," and like giggles and walks. I'm like, she is just killing this role, killing it.
And then I did feel bad for her when she's like crying and leaving. I was like, oh,
I know,
Misty.
Yeah.
I felt bad, but at the same time, I did say out loud, like, you know, it's bad if Misty Quigley's like, "This is unhealthy," and I need to leave.
Right. Like, I feel like at the very least, Shauna should think about that part. Like that makes Shauna be like, the one I think is crazy thinks this is unhealthy. She goes home, she's like investigating that letter, and then gets the text from Walter. We see that Lottie is dead. And so I guess I took like a little notes of Lottie. She's getting out of a bank when she gets the call from Ty. I do kind of like, she's like, lovely to hear from you. Well, thanks for checking in on me, when she's like, oh, Thais is doing the Shauna thing where she doesn't really give a shit about me. She just wants me to like
Yeah.
help her. I didn't remember when she says that Lottie said to her, it was happy with you. Is that at the end of season 2? Or
I
did that
think
not?
so, yeah.
Mhm.
When they when like the ambulance and everything comes to the compound after Natalie's death, I think that's when she's like, it's happy with you.
Okay.
You'll see.
And then before we see her dead body at the end, we see her doing like practicing apologies. I do wonder, like, I don't get her whole.
Who?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I also don't like when she was coming out of the bank and wherever she was doing that like practiced apology looked like a very fancy place.
Right.
And she's in her like nice coat.
Yeah. I
I'm
was
like, but you had nowhere to go. There's just
Yeah.
like a lot of unanswered Lottie questions.
yeah, that's what I was about to say, because it's like, well, it seems like she's doing pretty well, but like she went to Shauna's because she said she lost everything.
Well, do you think she was like practicing apologizing to Shauna to get back like on her good books? Like, is that, do we know? Do we think?
So this is my theory on that. I think because clearly, and I don't love that we keep doing this, but like every season we're adding like, ooh, look, someone else survived. Ooh,
Yeah.
look, someone else survived. Hillary Swank, we know, is in this season. She has to, I feel like she has to be playing a survivor.
Yes.
And I feel like that's probably going to be the reveal. Like she was going to apologize to Hillary
Melissa.
Swank, or yeah,
I'm betting that Hillary Swank is going to be older.
I think so. And I think Melissa's the one that's been like stalking Shauna.
Right.
But
Which
I think
makes sense.
yes.
Yes, if she's the one that messed with her car as well, that would be pretty cool. Mm.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk about the flashbacks now. Man, I hate that as soon as Coach saved Van last episode, I was like, oh, sir, this was a
Mari.
mistake.
Yeah.
Oh,
you were
Mari,
gone.
Mari, right.
Mari.
They're like, this was a mistake.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
No, wait, isn't it Van he saves from the gas? Isn't that who he's pulling out?
In this episode, yeah.
At the end of last episode. Remember when they meet
Oh,
in the
the end
cave
of yes.
and they put the gun to him? I think
Right,
it's-
right, right.
oh, okay,
Yes.
yeah. I
yes,
thought,
he's pulling out the gas. Yeah.
That's
I
what
see.
I mean. Mari too. Yeah, he shouldn't have.
He should not have let her go. Yeah.
But like when he's like, "Oh, it's some kind of gas," I was like, "Oh, I know you're doing the right thing, but like, you should have just left Van there, or like pulled her out somewhere else and just left her.
Left. You need to
Yeah,
get away. Yeah.
yeah. We all kind of knew. This made me like more angry, but I think it made for like a better episode. Is that we knew what the fate was, right? Like there was no part of me that was like, oh, he's gonna get a fair trial and he's gonna be proven not guilty. Like I was like, oh, he is toast,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he knew too. He knew the whole time.
Yeah, that's why when he has that first meeting with Misty, he was like, they've already decided. Do you think I'm gonna
Yeah.
like? He is the adult and he is like more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a couple times when I was like, but why isn't he like yelling out? And then I'm like, well, because that wouldn't help. Like,
Yeah. There's no point.
There was a
And
few
they-
times that I thought that as well, because it was like he's just so subdued and just sitting there, just kind of. But he's already accepted his fate at this point. I did love like Misty slapping him like in the initial conversation, and it's just like, oh my god, like all of this, and that's very Misty coded. Like I respected you, and I give you all this, and then you've done all of this, and going back to what I said earlier in the episode, I do love though that they're like, right, Misty, you're the one that has to defend him, and fucking hell does she not? Like puts over such a good argument.
and to your point earlier, that actor, she is so good because she slaps him and you can hear the hurt in her voice when
Yes.
she says like, you were my friend, because she did care about him, and the change in her face when he is like, I didn't do it, and you can see that she's like, oh, he didn't
I
do it.
have to defend this man.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to do it.
This is
And I
ugly.
like-
Her face is like ferocious when
Yes.
she crouches down.
And I love that she doesn't like tell him she's changed her opinion, but she just says, cut that shit out. We need to smile in front of them. We're not saying that in front of them. We need to win this case.
Yeah.
And she's right? Like the thing they all underestimate about Misty is how perceptive she is. Right? Like, sure, she can be annoying. She can be like overly attentive, but like, she's not stupid and she is very perceptive. Like,
Yeah. And she's very calculated. Like she knows how like what moves to play in this chess game, you know?
Yes. Yep. And like we see, what is it? Like Aquila and Lottie are starting to bond more, I guess, which ties into the end. Um she we Natalie, I feel bad for Natalie as well, because Natalie's
Yeah.
trying. She's
Yeah.
trying so hard, right? To be like, please let's be normal people about this. Let's like be fair. Let's and that's I think Van said it in the second episode this season when Ty's like, "Oh, I could rule," and she's like, "This place does not want to be like does not want rules. It wants chaos." And I think that's probably the most correct thing about where they are.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was just gonna say, I love when Natalie came out in like her judge outfit, and it's like these crowns and everything. It's like fucking awesome. I'd wear that any day. Like, let's go, make me the judge.
I was like, oh, here we go. This is where the headpieces start to like come
Yeah.
into play. Because I thought it was gonna like all lead back to the like weird party they had where they all were like dressed up. But I think this is really where those like
I agree.
leader headsets and all that stuff comes from.
Yeah. No, I agree. I do like Natalie, she even tries to make it as much of a real trial court whatever as
Yeah.
possible. Like I feel like Natalie at this point, Natalie and Misty are the only ones that are fully on Coach's side, right? Like I think Natalie probably does know Shauna did it. I do think maybe not 100% like but I think in her head she's like, Shauna did this. Like I kind of think she's like, because Nat at this point in the flashbacks, Nat seems like the only one that hasn't like really lost it.
Yeah.
And I think Misty's on the same kind of track without like really confirming that. So like when Misty is questioning Shauna when she's on the stand and just saying, oh, well, you know, everyone could have a reason to burn down the hut, really, but especially you. Let's talk about you and the fact that Natalie's leader and you clearly hate that. So then you're bringing up this whole thing of, oh, I can save the girls and that'll make me look heroic. And like, she is on the same wavelength there with Natalie, I think, and how she sees Shauna. And I love that. So yeah, like Natalie, 100% without saying it is saying it.
Yeah, and also I know this is gonna be the lamest, like lukewarm comparison, but I was getting so annoyed during this trial, and I just, everything political going on, I was like, God, this feels so relevant because it's so obvious, and yet everyone's like, no, it's gotta be the blah blah, and like you said, Misty makes a really good case for Shauna fucking did this.
Yep.
Shauna doesn't even do a good job defending herself. Like,
Yeah.
She just leans into full rage. She's like, what? It wasn't me. It was him.
Yeah.
And like just leads.
That's all her argument is. That's it. It was him. Everyone listen to me. It was him.
Saw her do that at dinner when she spits in Mari's soup and then is like, it is offensive. You would even say I would ever do that, which is how a lot of younger folks talk online.
Yeah.
Like.
Also, I think that a major, this is what I think I'm the most frustrated with, because I think for Shauna and everything that she does, like, it's Shauna. I expect it of her, you know?
Right, yeah.
But Mari pisses me off the most.
Yep.
Because what do you mean it was traumatic? He pulled you out of a hole. He fed you. He helped you with your knee. He let you go. Also, he was like shocked to hear about the cabin.
Yeah.
And
she saw that. She saw it. Like,
she's like, what do you mean? It burned for like 3 weeks or whatever, you know? And it's like, and then you're going to come back and be like, well, I assumed that he was, upset because he burned down the cabin. And I'm like, where did you...
Again, that like, and this is, again, I know this is like a lukewarm comparison, like no fucking shit, but I was like, Mari is like the Republicans that talk shit on Trump before he was president and now are like, yes, sir.
Yes.
And that's what it reminded me of. So I was like, now I fucking hate her.
Yes. And the thing that annoyed me as well about the trial is when they like obviously couldn't reach that majority agreement where they're like, okay, let's keep voting again and again and again. And I'm like, why, like, why do that? The votes are going to be the same, which is why you voted like 60 times again and again. Like, why not just talk to other people who haven't had voices in that trial yet and see what they think and see if that helps to, like, change people's opinion. But just voting again and again, only for Shauna to then scream at everybody, basically, it was him, everyone, it was him, put your hands up. It's like, if I was on the island, I'd be like, calm the fuck down. Like, I am still on team. It was not him. My hand's staying there.
I absolutely, I would have gotten myself eaten. So I'd have been like, fuck you talking to. Like, don't
yeah.
talk to me
Yep.
like that. I'm still keeping my vote the same. And then I would have gotten eaten. So.
Anyone hungry? Let's have a bit of Shauna.
Shauna's looking really tasty, and I don't mean in a hot way. I mean in a food chicken way.
Turn that fire on. Let's go.
We can really find out who was better, Jackie or Shauna.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, Mari. I was so mad at Mari, but Misty questions her to a point where Mari almost admits I forget what the exact line is, but she says something like, that doesn't seem like a murderer, does it? And she's like, no, it doesn't. And
because he didn't want her to die in the hole.
Yeah. Right. And Misty is so good. Misty's lawyering. She should be a fucking lawyer. She absolutely, I'm like, Misty, I feel like Misty would maybe kill too many people in the process of being a lawyer, but
it would be a very Dexter situation with her getting involved.
Hey, if it's Misty, we can justify it, okay? Look, if Misty did it, oh, that's fine. She had reasons. Yeah, and when she had Shauna on the stand, you could see the wheels in Shauna's head starting, her defense was starting to break down because all that she's sitting on there right now is, no, it was him. Everyone blame him. That's all her defense is. So when Misty was breaking that down in front of everybody, Shauna fucking hated that because her whole thing is screaming at people to get them, to do what they want. Like when she was saying earlier, oh, don't be fucking boring. I hope you're not a boring, but she goes for the jugular every time. She goes for what's the biggest reaction I can get to people so that they agree with me? Do I have to scream at this person? Do I have to break them down? So when it's being done to her, what Misty's doing to her, she fucking hates it. And that's why she went off and started screaming about him again.
Again, to reiterate my lukewarm metaphor, right? That still is that, it is so obvious that her defense is so paper thin. So she just yells and gets mean.
Intimidate.
And then everyone is like, well, she's right. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I know. She's not right. She's talking over fucking ass. Keep those hands down.
I feel so there was the one girl that Melissa kept patting.
Yes.
I feel she was the only one that really caved until Lottie. We get that shot of the wind blowing.
Yeah.
And
I didn't quite understand what the Dana said. She thought to me that was all of them getting a signal.
I thought it was the quote unquote wilderness telling Lottie
yes,
you need to change your vote. And then, the rest of them were well, wherever Lottie votes, that's where I vote.
Because Lottie, up until that point, wouldn't have really had a reason to change her vote, because she's kind of, I guess, more impartial. But then, anything to do with the wilderness or her visions or anything like that, it's going to back up what she believes in. She's like, oh no, this is a message. We've got to go with this. So
Also, and then freaking Mari voted innocent. After all of that, she didn't even vote guilty. And I was like, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to physically fight this girl.
Shouldn't that tell the rest of them something? If the reason they have him and she's like, no,
and she looks down that first vote. She's like, because she knows. She knows.
Yep.
Ooh. That and Ashley, you mentioned this earlier, but I was getting really mad at Ty, really mad at Ty.
Yeah.
Because it was so annoying. Even when Ty found out, when she's because there was a moment, right, when she was about to break.
Yeah. When
she kind of sat down, but then Shauna's like, no. And gets her riled up. But even the evidence she had there did nothing, I felt right? Nat gave and poor Nat is the problem with Nat being the most sane one is she still tries to do it in a logical way, but as I don't know, work on these people.
No,
they're past logic at this point.
We're that was 5 exits ago. We gotta think of something else. And Nat and Shauna have been at the top of my lit the cabin on fire list I think Shauna's bumped, but I still could maybe see it have been Nat because she's like everyone is losing their mind and they're killing each other. I need to do something to like get us to bond or get us to like reset.
To like move this on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's the only reason I could see. I don't think Nat would do it to kill anyone. I think she
mhm.
would do it to hopefully, I don't know, like bring them together more or some shit.
Right. Shauna's at the top of my list. I just think how much she was so determined to like throw the coach into the fire, literally. Like that just speaks volumes in terms of guilt. And I'm just so surprised that, because if I was sitting there, I'd be like, she is getting really fucking riled up.
Right.
And I know that like it's a big thing that the cabin was starting to find they could have died, but like we were all in the same boat. Why are you in particular getting this mad about
Yeah.
it? It's for me,
Yeah.
that's guilt. So like, if it's revealed that it was Shauna, like that makes complete sense. But then I don't know, like it would be more of a shock if it was like I could understand where Nat's coming from to a degree, like you said, Ian, if it was her. But for me, all fingers point at Shauna right now.
I kind
Yeah.
of like to think that maybe it's like one of these characters that's unnamed in the background that was like, you know what? Fuck these bitches. I'm burning this cabin.
I didn't have enough of that leg to eat, those fucking bitches.
I hope it's like Aquila, who seems like the sweetest one. Like,
Right,
she was
right.
like, I know I'm gonna get eaten next if I don't light these motherfuckers on fire. So
I also think there's a good chance it's Lottie with her hallucinations. Like she could have been, out of it.
The wind told her
And
to.
the wind, yeah, she was told to light a fire, so she did. And when she came back to, she was like, I don't know. I don't think I did that.
Hmm.
I also could see someone mentioned this in one of the previous episodes, like maybe there was like something that blew by that caught because I could see it being the woods did it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
because it was like
That happens.
right?
Right.
Yeah, we've seen it. Isn't that how fucking Jackie was roasted? Like
Right, yeah, when the snow fell out. Right, yeah, of course.
so
Look,
like
it's the Black Mist monster from Lost. It's on this
exactly.
island too.
So I could see Shauna just it almost not even being guilt, but just being like she is so fucking insistent she has to be right about every
Yeah.
single goddamn thing.
Mhm.
Just like the Misty, like, girl, why would that be Misty at her job? Like, and when she goes up to like complain, and the woman's like, Misty, there's no like, it's more annoyance because she's like, oh well, I guess it wasn't her. Well, now I'm
Yeah.
annoyed about it.
It's not
Like,
going my way. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think because again, I do think Shauna's a sociopath, so I don't think there's like a guilt. I think the closest she gets to guilt is being like, oh, huh, I should probably feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And
And
like
that's
that's it.
probably why she was so proud of her daughter as well. When like she spilled like the guts all over those girls at school, she was like, "Oh my God, that's shocking!" But I'm laughing because that's so iconic, and that would lean into because that's something what she would do as
Yes.
well.
Yeah,
So
yep.
like mother like daughter, baby.
Oh yeah, they're definitely drawing the parallels.
100%. I'm like, that, Callie's a little cunt. Like,
Yeah. And those girls deserved it, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, I have so many notes. It's like, God, this is reminding me of politics right now. Um so then by majority decision, we find you, Coach Scott, guilty of attempted murder. I watched this earlier today. I was eating lunch at the kitchen table. I literally like slammed my hands on the kitchen table because I was so fucking mad
Hmm.
because I just even if the like guilty verdict isn't like well now we're killing him, which I think it might be, I think this is still the like beginning of the end. Like I think that this will lead to him dying.
yeah.
100%. And like, it's a shame as well because we had that whole time of when he was on the stand and Misty was talking to him and he kind of revealed like how he feels about the girls. Like he feels like a father
Yeah.
figure. And like, it was so nice when he was like, look, like, I didn't plan on this being my career. And like, at first you all fucking annoyed me. But then as time went on, like when you were all wasted, I defended you here. When you were doing this, I defended you here. This was all happening behind the scenes, but I was looking out for you. And this one time that I'm asking you to trust and believe and look out for me, you all fucking think that I'm guilty. And like, I just felt really bad for him because, I mean, it would be the biggest gag in the world if it was actually him, but
Yeah.
I just felt so bad for him because like he's been, as you say, like he let Maury go. He didn't have to do that. He could have just left and like gone off, but he did it and like saved Van. So like he's constantly proved time and time again that he's been out there helping those girls. And yet the one time when he asks for them just to like some help, they just turn on him, and it's sad to see.
Yeah. And like man, do I understand? Like, I don't know. I fell into this job. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm a fucking
Yeah.
professor, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how I am. It's like I didn't know if I would like it, blah blah blah. And then like I do like, 2 semesters ago, I taught for like kids at a charter school, and I was like very stressed. And by the end, it was like I love these kids so much, or like my children. So I get that, and like I don't know. I also hated that they fell back into I think it might have been the drinking story where they all laugh. They were like,
Yeah.
oh, haha,
And they're
no.
crying. They're all
Yeah.
crying
And by the
too.
end, yeah, they know it's not right what they're doing, but yet they're like, oh, well, toss them on the fire.
It
Like,
like really. So again, it's a stupid comparison. I often go back to how does shit like this happen? And a lot of people are always like, it's like mob mentality always
yeah.
wins. And like, this is very much showing us because
Mhm.
like, it's like they laughed, they cried. Mari, who was like the reason this was happening, even was like, yeah, it doesn't seem like he would be a killer.
Hmm.
And even is the one that votes innocent, which should have sent them a signal. But because Shauna was the loudest,
Mhm.
we caved to the loudest. And I was like, no, don't fucking cave to the loudest.
And the fact that he apologized to her as well and like just said,
Yeah.
look, like, because he had all of these issues about his own parents and everything like that. And he's like, I am so sorry, Shauna, for like walking out on you when you were giving birth, going into labor. Like, I am so sorry for that. And even her face, you were like, oh shit, like, even she's feeling that apology.
Mhm.
And then still straight after, she's like, well, everyone got those hands up. And I just felt
Mhm.
bad for him. Like, all of that. I mean, he's like, I can't believe all of your survival skills. You've all done amazing. Then they all start crying. I'm like, fuck, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
It's
It's
so
just,
heartfelt and so emotional and
yeah.
sincere, and it's like, God damn it, they're gonna eat this man.
Right? I
Hmm.
feel like that makes it worse. Like I was like getting
Yeah.
Yeah.
emotional because I was like, man, he's really like putting it out there and it's not gonna fucking matter. Like
Mhm.
at all. Ugh.
Yeah. And he knew. And the line where he's like, and then I really started to love you guys. And then we got out here and you chopped off my fucking leg. And like, you're starting to eat people. And the way he like bangs his head, like, I can't believe this is happening. And
Hmm.
it's like, I think at that point too, you're just like, what do you do? There's nothing you can do. And I think that the people who are voting innocent probably feel the same way. It's like, well, shit, I can't, like, if I speak up, then yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna eat me
Me
too.
too.
Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And like I think that's like you said, the girl that Melissa was nudging, like probably that's what went through her head. And like Akila and Travis, once they like got the look from Lottie, were probably like, well,
hmm
I'm gonna be next if I don't. And like again, that just annoyingly feeds into everything going on right now, where it's like every millionaire is like, well, I don't want to be eaten next, so fuck these poor people, fuck these trans people. Like, it's just like, that's what this felt like. And I was getting so mad. I was like, I want Misty and Nat to light all these girls on fire.
yeah.
Because I'm like, I mean, I know Misty and Nat survive, but I'm like, I need them to be treated better. Like, they are the only ones that are like on the right side of history. Like,
Hmm.
ugh.
I also love this is like going back, but when Misty's like, it could have even been Crystal, and I'm like, Misty.
Now we're reaching.
I did love the cut to that girl, and she's like, "What?"
Mhm.
Like,
No, Crystal's the one she killed.
oh, because the second girl she accuses,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
And she's
not a
like, what the
girl.
fuck?
Yeah.
But then at the end of the rant, she's like, hell, it could have even been Crystal. I'm like,
God,
she just had to throw that one back in.
Which one was
more.
Crystal? The one that fell off.
That she
the...
like,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, right, because they don't know she's dead, right? They never
Right.
found her.
She was like, what? She just disappeared. And they think she's like out there.
Right,
Mm.
right. I mean, that's not a bad like avenue to go if we're saying people who leave are the ones that did a bad.
It's true, but I just feel like it's so funny because no one's mentioned Crystal in forever. And she's like, and don't forget that we don't know where Crystal is either.
That does bring up the one thing that has been bothering me a little bit is there is so much that happens in this show and so much that gets fully dropped after it happens
Hmm.
that I'm kind of like, it makes it like I have a bad memory. Anyway, that like, I think I mentioned this in the last recording, like there's a bit from, and I posted it, but it didn't do well on social, but like for Abbott Elementary where Quinta's like, it's like watching TV. I don't remember what happened on Stranger Things last season. That was 10 years ago. Like that's how I feel about Yellowjackets. So when they do make a small reference to something that they have not talked about at all in like a year and a half, I'm like, who? Even
Yeah.
at the end when Shauna has the cat, I was like, have we seen this cat? Like, is this, like, did she see this cat when she went somewhere? Like, I was like, ugh.
And like sometimes when some of the more background characters start talking, I'm like, okay, who the fuck are you? Like, have I seen
Yeah.
you before? Like that happens. Like it used to happen in Lost a lot as well. But like, I'd be like, who the fuck is that character? And then I hear the name, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was a distant memory from 50 years ago.
And Adam, I don't know if you remember specifically on Lost when God, Nikki and Paolo started popping up.
Oh my God, yes,
And
Jesus
there was
Christ.
even the joke where Sawyer is like, who the hell are you? Because they were
Yes.
like, they just added them into the cast
And then killed them.
and then killed them. But that's what I feel about it. Yeah, a lot of times on the show, I'm like, who?
That's how I felt about Melissa last season. I was like, who is this girl and where's she come from?
We saw her last season?
Yeah, we did.
I thought Aquila was the new one last season. I did not remember Melissa from last season.
Oh man, she was in the back of the plane.
God. Yeah. So that's like, and my problem, which I will always say, because Lost had this problem, was when we're like a thing crashed, that has to be a set number of people.
Yes.
Like we have to have a set number of people, and we have to think about if the show goes on and we do have to kill some characters. Let's not just have a new face pop up. Let's have that character be a character that had already been there. Like, I feel like that is the planning. I need any show that's like a group of survivors to like think about. Like,
Right. Or if you are going to do it, like Lost did this pretty well, where like write it into the show. So like, you know, the back
plane
of the
split up.
plane
Yes.
split up. So there are people out there we don't know yet, but we're on the same plane. And that made sense. But this, it's like they all kind of crashed together. We haven't like heard of like somebody walking through the woods like, hey, I'm back. I've been gone for like 60 days or whatever, you know? So yeah, make a
Yeah.
point of it.
I also often wonder, I'm like, this was just like a high school soccer team. It's not a private plane. So, like, where's all the strangers that were also on that plane? Like, it was only
Wait.
the soccer team?
Wasn't it a I thought it was a private.
I thought it
plane.
was.
Is it? But how? Why? They don't have the budget for that. Not a public school in the 90s.
That's true. But
Yeah.
I feel like I remember there being something where it was like just them on the plane.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just because it was like for nationals.
Yeah.
They wrote.
So what do we think is, we're at the end here. So Ashley, tell me what you think is a thing that might happen this season.
A thing I think might happen. Well, I definitely think there are a lot more survivors than we have been shown, and I think
the
we're
present
gonna
day?
see, we're gonna see a couple more maybe adult players. I think that Coach is probably out this season. This will be his last season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where the like these drugs help you connect with it storyline goes. And kind of like in this next episode, hopefully we'll get a little bit more Travis, because I would like to see kind of like, I feel like since he came down, he's like, he didn't
Yeah.
have, what were his lines in this episode? And he said, what? When they showed up. And then at the end, he said, it's the outcome. And that's
Right.
it. And I'm like, what's going on in that brain of yours, sir?
Yeah, I almost think Travis is having the same problem Javi did, because is starting, even though he's not, and I think he is was 25 when the show started, but like he is looking like, and I don't mean like bad, but he's looking more like that's a man, not like
Yeah.
a teenager. So
Right.
I almost think that's why they're like not showing him as much, because it's like, shit. And he definitely had a wig on the last few episodes.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
yeah. That wig was blown around his head. Yeah.
I also do think the aging, though, that he was an older teen, so it makes sense that he would age a
Oh,
little
was
faster.
he supposed to be older than them?
Well, I think they're all older teens.
Okay,
I feel like once you've hit like 16 as a boy, I feel like 16
True,
to like
yeah,
19, you change so much. But I also think he experienced a lot more extra trauma since being out there with like the Javi situation and his dad and all of that. And so that's going to age you too.
That's true. That's true. Well, and I think that adds into like why he's kind of so isolated and not talking so much. It's like, all right, his little brother was eaten. Like,
And they talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot. I would be like, can we not use his name anymore? Like, can you just say like person number one or something? Like, let's not talk about him.
Like, wow, in the
as my
last
brother anymore.
in the last hour, you've mentioned 6 times eating my brother. So
As they're like licking their fingers.
yeah. Adam, what would you like to see happen this season? Or
Oh,
what do you think will happen?
So, like, obviously, it looks like Coach is going to die, but I kind of love if it was the biggest gag of where, like, he thinks he's like they think he has died, but he actually hasn't, and he comes back in the future or like present day. I'd love to see that. I mean, what's happening with his partner? Like, have we seen anything of him? Because like we haven't, right? So, like, what's his stance on what happened with his like partner on that island? So, I'd love to see some of that. But also, to be honest, like going back to what I said earlier on in the episode, is that just the supernatural stuff, like that for me, like is my baby. I love that, so I want to get more confirmation of that, because right now, like we're getting the joint dream that they all had because of that gas, and like they can all hear like the trees kind of speaking to them, and obviously Lottie's fully in on having the premonitions and the visions and everything. So I want something confirmation like that, and I hope that something we're leading towards something big happens like that, which then might even turn them a bit more primal. But yeah, that's what I really want to see, like some type of confirmation of something fucking weird is happening on this island, and it's not just us going crazy. Like something is on this island with us, and then I'm all in.
That's fair. That's fair. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you both for filling in for Zach. Thank you all for listening. If you like My Bloody Judy, you can find us on all social media platforms at My Bloody Judy. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Make sure to give us a good rating, leave us a nice comment, let us know what you think of the episode. And Ashley, let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Cause I'm Feeling Fine, or on Blue Sky at MythTaken314. And if you like a very, 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 very different show called Heartstopper, I do a podcast about that. We are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms, social platforms, and you can listen anywhere you get podcasts. And Adam is covering most of season 3 with me. So,
And Adam, where can everyone find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Straughan87. Just type that in, you'll see my face. You can also find my podcasts last week on. Right now, I'm covering Invincible with Ian's been on a couple of times as well, which is phenomenal. So we're going through that right now. And that is just at last week on. Type that in everywhere, you'll see that. And also Into You Podcast. If you type that in anywhere, you will find that as well on all the socials, all the platforms.
Well, thank you both for joining me, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
bye.